The Assassin. You know I break necks, call me Jack Tate. I have no regrets while your life is fading. I'm a crazy fuck equivalent to Satan. When I'm behind the mic, I feel like the greatest. You know I break necks, call me Jack Tate. I have no regrets while your life is fading. I'm a crazy fuck equivalent to Satan. When I'm behind the mic, I feel like the greatest.
What up, y'all? You're listening to Sports Talk with Tropp, and I'm your host, Katie Tropp. Well, it's Super Bowl 56 weekend, so that means I'm only talking football today. Football. It's the last game of the season. There were some movements during the trade deadline and the NBA trade deadline this week, but I'll get into that on Monday because it is motherfucking football time. This is the greatest weekend if you're a football fan, especially. This is how the season ends. And like I've said before, the Super Bowl is my favorite day of the year. It's like a holiday for me, a football holiday. I'm not like celebrating with a bunch of people. I actually don't really care to participate in parties or that kind of shit. I actually prefer to watch games by myself for the most part, just because I find most people annoying. So I usually watch by myself. I love the Super Bowl. It's the greatest day of the year, and this year it's LA Rams versus the Cincinnati Bengals. The Bengals are technically the home team, even though it's in LA, which is the second time in a row where we've had the home team be the host of the Super Bowl. That never happened up until last year, and now all of a sudden it's happened 2 years in a row, which is pretty awesome. But the funny thing is, Rams fans aren't known for showing out, so I don't know what kind of a home field advantage they may have. But hey, man, it's going to be a great game. Got a ton of storylines going into Sunday's game. Right now, the Rams are a 4.5 point favorite. That sounds about right to me. I mean, overall, when you're really looking at it, if you just look at both teams on paper, the Rams actually blow away the Bengals. I mean, the Bengals are a good team. Obviously, they're a good team. They're here in the Super Bowl. But the Rams are just complete at pretty much every position on the field except running back. I think that's their biggest weakness. But I mean, Matthew Stafford, he's had a spectacular season. Him and Cooper Kupp have some great chemistry. Cooper Kupp had one of the best seasons a wide receiver has ever had in the history of the league. You've got, they picked up OBJ in the middle of the season. He's turned out to, he's worked so far for them. I mean, he's made some big plays towards the end of the season, especially in this playoff run. And then you've got Van Jefferson, who's been kind of their dark horse receiver throughout the season, but he's made some big plays when he's needed to. So a lot of people don't know his name, but it's possible he could be that breakout dude who just has a spectacular game because all the attention is going to be on Kupp and OBJ. And, you got Tyler Higbee. He did get injured last week, but unless his leg is falling off, I imagine he's going to give it a go. On the offensive side of things, and then they also have got a solid offensive line as well. So offensively, they're great. And then defensively, they're great as well. I mean, you got Aaron Donald up front, arguably one of the best defensive tackles to ever play the game. You got Jalen Ramsey, one of the best cornerbacks in the league. You got Von Miller, another guy who they picked up halfway through the season. They traded for him. And so far, that's turned out to be a great move that they made as well because he's made some big plays. And if you don't remember, that is the Super Bowl 50 MVP. That dude shows up when he needs to. So keep your eye on Von Miller because he could possibly get another MVP. And then turning over to the Bengals side, Joe Burrow, what a confident motherfucker. This guy he's just had such a spectacular season. For only being his second year, too. I mean, usually the second-year quarterback, because there have been a couple quarterbacks who have won the Super Bowl in their second year. One of them was Tom Brady, but that team was more about their defense than they were their offense. They had good pieces on offense, but it wasn't like a Tom Brady-led team. Same with Russell Wilson when he was with the Seahawks. Well, he is with the Seahawks, but when they went to the Super Bowl in his second season, they won, but that was another team that had a spectacular defense. They were good overall, but they didn't win because of Russell Wilson. And then you also had Ben Roethlisberger in his second season with the Steelers. He also went to the Super Bowl. He actually did have a pretty solid Super Bowl, but I mean, once again, solid defense and some great role players around him. In Cincinnati, they have a solid defense. Actually, they're more like a no-name defense that nobody really knows about, but they're a good defense. But offensively, Joe Burrow is just the man. He's the leader. Jamar Chase has had a spectacular season as well. And Tyler Higbee, another guy who's had a great season. But the biggest weakness for the Bengals is their offensive line. It's been their weakness since last year, as a matter of fact. That's why Joe Burrow tore his ACL last year, because that offensive line can't block shit. And so even though that's a problem for them, they've been able to overcome it. I mean, if you don't recall, earlier in the playoffs, they got sacked 9 times by the Tennessee Titans in the divisional round and still ended up winning that game. So that just goes to show you what kind of a player Joe Burrow is. And I just think this is going to be a very interesting game. I'm leaning to my official pick. I'm actually going to pick the Bengals. I was going back and forth the last couple of weeks. I was originally leaning towards the Rams because they are the better team, just on paper. But for some reason, the Bengals are like that team of destiny. They've had a solid season, but they caught fire at the right time. They know how to win. They've won by being down. They've beat great teams. They beat the Chiefs, who are led by Patrick Mahomes. They beat the Titans, who were the number 1 seed in the league. Or in the AFC. So they've really been tested throughout this entire playoff run, and they've overcome every single test along the way. And Joe Burrow, like I said, there's just something about him that really has changed this team. I mean, the Bengals used to be one of the biggest laughingstocks. I mean, just as recently as a couple years ago. So nobody had this team going to the Super Bowl. Some people might have had them winning the division. Some people might have had them winning the wild card round, but I don't think any of us really predicted that this team would be here. The Rams, I don't think a lot of people predicted them, but I mean, it's not really shocking that they're here because they are such a good team. But I do think the Bengals are going to win this one, 28-24. I think it's going to be a close battle. I think you are going to see some great defense from the Rams, but I just see that one thing that you can look at with the Bengals that they're really good at and that they do have an advantage on over the Rams is the Rams cannot stop a screen pass, and the Bengals are the masters at the screen pass. I mean, there's been a couple games this season along this playoff run that have helped them win with the screen pass, and they got some really fast receivers. And running backs too. So, and Joe Burrow is just really precise with the football, and he really knows how to deliver it because, I mean, screen passes are just a tricky play. You got to be great at them, to complete them and just make them work. And they're great at it. Whereas the Rams defense is great at a lot of things, but they are awful at stopping the screen pass. So this could be an edge, an advantage that the Bengals end up using and eventually getting the win. I do think it's going to be a back and forth battle. It's going to be one of those where whoever has the ball last in the fourth quarter is gonna get the win. And I think it's going to be Cincy, and I think they're going to get their first Super Bowl win. And another cool thing, if Joe Burrow actually does win this Super Bowl, he will be the first player ever to have won a national championship, like he did with LSU a couple years ago, to win a Heisman Trophy. And if he wins a Super Bowl, that has never happened in the history of the NFL. So that would actually be kind of cool to see as well. I personally, usually, I think all of us, once it gets towards game time, we're rooting for some team. I am rooting for Cincinnati. I've never really been a Rams fan. Granted, I do love Matthew Stafford. I've enjoyed his career even when he was with Detroit. I like how he plays the game. I think he's got a spectacular arm. So I wouldn't actually be upset to see the Rams win, but I've just never been a fan of theirs. I've never rooted for them. As a matter of fact, I've rooted against them in all of their other Super Bowls, I believe. So I don't really see myself rooting for them in this one. But I'm rooting for the Bengals, and just because I think it would be cool to see them finally get their first win. And like I said, I really like Joe Burrow as well. Regardless of who wins, what I really like about this year's Super Bowl is it's something new. We've got two new quarterbacks who have never been here. We've got two teams who could potentially be the future of the league with what they've got going on right now. And it's just, and now with Tom Brady retiring, I mean, the league is wide open for anybody's taking. And there isn't any quarterback in the league right now who has more than one Super Bowl. So, I mean, the debate on who's the best quarterback in the league right now is pretty much up for debate because they're all so close in how they're playing at this current point in time. So, what's cool about this game is it could really set the course for what could happen in the future, or this just could be one of those one-off Super Bowls where neither team gets back, and we have just a whole bunch of different winners over the next couple seasons. But it's going to be interesting to see what happens with the future of the league. But this Super Bowl is definitely going to set the trajectory of the future of the league, and I'm looking forward to this game. I think it's going to be a good one. I'm also looking forward to the halftime show. I've said that multiple times. Dr. Dre, Eminem, Snoop Dogg, Kendrick Lamar, Mary J. Blige, a huge Dr. Dre, Snoop Dogg, and Eminem fan. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what they got. And that's pretty much it on the actual game. Now, you do know that I do my Tropp 5 and Tropp 10 list, so I am going to do a Tropp 5 list that correlates with this year's Super Bowl 56. And it's the Tropp 5 Super Bowl Hotties. Yeah, the hottest guys who are playing this weekend, because I'll tell you what, there are a lot. That's why I'm like, shit, I got to do a Tropp 5 list. Because there's a lot of good-looking dudes playing this weekend. So we're going to start off with number 5 on the Tropp 5 Super Bowl Hotties, the quarterback of the Los Angeles Rams, Matthew Stafford. He's a very good-looking guy, great quarterback, and he's number 5. Number 4 on my Tropp 5 Super Bowl Hotties is Odell Beckham Jr. He's got a spectacular body, nice, beautiful skin on the face, and he's got amazing tattoos. I love tattoos on myself, but I love seeing other people's work, and he's just covered in them, and he's got great work on that amazing body of his. Number 3 on my Tropp 5 Super Bowl Hotties is the quarterback of the Cincinnati Bengals, Joe Burrow. He's just a hot-looking dude, great face, and what I really like about him is he doesn't have any facial hair, because all the guys seem to be going with the facial hair these days, and I don't like facial hair. So Joe Burrow, that's one of the hottest things about you, as a matter of fact, is that you got that nice, young-looking skin on you. So you are number 3 on my Tropp 5 Super Bowl Hotties. Number 2 on my Tropp 5 Super Bowl Hotties is the defensive tackle of the Los Angeles Rams, Aaron Donald, who has the finest body you will ever see. I thank him for all his social media posts where he's just shirtless, because that dude be fine. And then number 1 on my Tropp 5 Super Bowl Hotties, I cannot believe that this is number 1, but he is absolutely hot. That would be the coach of the Los Angeles Rams, Sean McVay. That guy is hot, and I'm looking forward to seeing him just walk up and down the sidelines looking sexy. So that is my Tropp 5 Super Bowl Hotties. That's for all my female and gay listeners. Sorry, straight men, but sometimes you got to do shit like that. We've had to put up with your objectification of women forever, so you get to deal with my objectification of men. What? So yeah, that's the list right there. There were a couple other things that happened in the NFL this week. They announced that we are adding an international country next year. We're adding Germany in, and they're going to be playing in Munich next year. They signed a deal with Germany, I think, for the next 4 years. Munich, and I can't remember the other German city that they will be playing in, I believe, in 2023. But welcome, Germany. That's where the NFL is going to be playing. They're also going to be playing in Mexico City again this year, and then 3 more games in London. So more international games. And then we also had the end of the year awards were handed out last night. The Rookie of the Year was Cincinnati Bengals wide receiver Jamar Chase. He was one of the top receivers this year and had a spectacular year, not just for a rookie, but he overall was one of the best receivers in this league and has definitely made his impact. So he won Rookie of the Year. He also won Offensive Rookie of the Year. And then Defensive Rookie of the Year was my boy Micah Parsons of the Dallas Cowboys, linebacker. That motherfucker had quarterbacks running for their lives. Oh, so looking forward to the rest of that dude's career. He's something else. Of course, I love him because he plays for my Cowboys, but he is just an overall spectacular player, and I'm glad we have him in Dallas Cowboys silver and blue. Then the comeback player of the year was Cincinnati Bengals quarterback Joe Burrow. As you know, he suffered an ACL injury last year, missed a lot of the second half of the season, and came back this year and led his team to the Super Bowl. So that's obviously deserving. The defensive player of the year was Steelers linebacker TJ Watt. Led the league in sacks with 22.5. That ties the record with Michael Strahan. So should be interesting to see what this dude does next year. I'm sure he set his sights on 23 next year. Then offensive player of the year was Los Angeles Rams wide receiver Cooper Kupp. Arguably the best receiver this year. He topped the league in every category you could for wide receiver. So obviously he was offensive player of the year. Coach of the year, Tennessee Titans Mike Rabel. I think that is very well deserved. You could have gone multiple different coaches, but I mean, this guy, he kept his team in it even when they lost their best player. They were the number one seed in the league. They actually beat quite a few good teams in the regular season. It's just they did the hard choke in the playoffs. So, but Mike Vrabel deserved Coach of the Year. And then MVP ended up being Green Bay Packers quarterback Aaron Rodgers. This is his fourth MVP of his career. He's right behind Peyton Manning, who has 5 MVPs. I can't really argue with it. To me, I would have gone Tom Brady, not just because I love Tom Brady, but because he led the league in passing all season long. Everything went through him. Aaron Rodgers actually, if you look at the statistics, he actually wasn't one of the best quarterbacks, statistic-wise. His team was number one. He had a great season. I can't argue against it, but I'm just saying, statistically, I didn't really think he was better than Tom Brady, but hey, I can't argue against him. So he's won his 4th MVP of his career, and we'll see what he ends up doing for next season. I think he's going to end up coming back. I think he's going to be a Packer too. With Tom Brady retiring, I think that really changes his mindset if he even really was considering retirement. I kind of think that's going to go at the wayside now because really the NFC is wide open, and Aaron Rodgers, I think, is smart enough to see that, and that's why I think he's just going to end up making it work with the Packers, and I don't think he's going to retire. I think he's going to at least give it one more season. All right, and then also Hall of Famers were announced this weekend as well, the 2022 class. Overall, I can't say I have any issues with who's getting in. I will say I'm really pissed off that DeMarcus Ware did not get inducted. I'm sure he will at some point, but I mean, he was one of the best defensive ends of his era, and it's kind of ridiculous to me that he didn't get in, but hey, the Pro Football Hall of Fame doesn't piss me off as much as the MLB Hall of Fame, because pro football, they don't have the stupid 10-year limit. Even if you don't get in on your first try, you're probably going to get in at some point. So I know DeMarcus is going to get in. It's just, I think he should have been a first ballot. But I can't argue against any of the dudes who made it. So here's all the guys who are going to be the 2022 Hall of Fame inductees. This is in alphabetical order, starting with Tony Buselli, the offensive tackle for the Jacksonville Jaguars. He was actually their first ever pick, and he was one of the best offensive linemen of this era. He was consistent his entire time. He was an all-pro, and even when the Jaguars were awful, he was still a bright spot on the team. So he's definitely deserving of being in the Hall of Fame. Next was Leroy Butler, the safety for the Packers. Now, I specifically remember this dude because he played in my era when I grew up. So I remember Leroy Butler. He was the face of this defense at the time. And he's one of only 6 players to be in the 30-plus interception club and the 20-plus sacks club. So that kind of goes to show you what kind of a versatile safety he was, because he wasn't just in the secondary hawking balls, he was also getting sacks on the quarterback as well. And you don't see a lot of that these days from the secondary. There are some sacks that come from a cornerback or a safety, but not the same way back in the day in the 90s. Then Sam Mills, he's most known for playing with the Panthers at linebacker, but he also was an undrafted free agent by the Cleveland Browns. I can't remember who else he played for. I didn't write it down, but he played for somebody else's, the Saints. That's who else he played for. And basically every team he was on, every defense he was on was one of the best top 5 defenses in the league. Unfortunately, he passed away a couple years ago due to cancer. He was coaching for a little while, and he actually is a Carolina Panthers legend, so my friend Simon should be real happy about him getting inducted into the Hall of Fame, since he's a huge Panthers fan. And then Richard Seymour, defensive lineman for the New England Patriots, he was one of the focal points of the first 3 Super Bowls they won. Richard Seymour had 57 and a half career total sacks. He was an all-pro. He went to the Raiders after. And even when he was with the Raiders, he was a spectacular player. So this dude definitely deserves to get in. Then another who I vividly remember, Bryant Young of the San Francisco 49ers, defensive lineman. I didn't even need to write shit down about Bryant Young. Bryant Young was a motherfucking beast. I can't believe it took this long for this dude to get into the Hall of Fame. He didn't deserve to wait either, because this motherfucker was one of the best defensive linemen of the time. Loved me some Bryant Young. But he was spectacular. You don't even need to say stats of Bryant Young, because that's just how fucking good he was. Go watch some of Bryant Young highlights and you will know. And then the senior committee inducted Cliff Branch, Raiders wide receiver from back in the John Madden days. And one thing I do notice about the Pro Football Hall of Fame is they really like to slight the Raiders of the 70s. I mean, it even took a long-ass time for John Madden to get inducted into the Hall of Fame. John fucking Madden. Like, how you gonna make that legend wait? But I noticed they do that a lot with the Raiders of the 70s. So I'm happy to see that Cliff Branch got in. He was a huge focal point. He was like the top receiver of their time at this point. At this point in time for that team. But yeah, I can't believe that they like to slight this Raiders team. I mean, hell, the intro track to my song called Jack Tatum, he is not in the Hall of Fame. How is he not in the Hall of Fame? He was a great safety. So y'all need to, I don't know what it is that the Pro Football Hall of Fame voters have against that Raiders team, but y'all need to get over it, because that was a damn fucking good team. And then we also have the first official this year being inducted in the Hall of Fame, Art McNally. He used to officiate more back in the 70s and 80s. He apparently was a huge influence with instant replay and stuff. So he's inducted. And then the coach that was inducted this year is Dick Vermeil, legendary coach. He coached both the Philadelphia Eagles and the St. Louis Rams, took both of them to the Super Bowl. The Eagles lost, and the Rams, they won. They were actually known as the greatest show on turf during his time. And he just was he was a player's coach. Nobody has anything bad to say about Dick Vermeil, and he's definitely worthy of being in the Hall of Fame. So that's our 2022 Hall of Fame inductees. Like I said, they are missing DeMarcus Ware, but maybe next year, homie. But I can't argue against any of those guys who were inducted. All right, and then so I already did a Tropp 5 list, but I had to do another one. I'm doing now my Tropp 5 favorite Super Bowls of all time. Now, these are my favorite Super Bowls, okay? So part of the criteria on this is I couldn't pick a Super Bowl I haven't watched. So I couldn't put like Super Bowl 1 on there because I wasn't born yet. So it had to be any Super Bowl after 1985. And really, actually, the first Super Bowl I remember is Super Bowl 27 in 1992 between the Cowboys and the Bills. So basically, that's where I'm starting, is from that year on. So that's part of the criteria. Also, no, not all 5 are Dallas Cowboys Super Bowls, even though they have 5 Super Bowls. Maybe one of these days I'll rank all 5 Cowboys Super Bowls individually. But I didn't want to kill all my Cowboys haters out there with just an all Dallas Cowboys list. No, only one of their Super Bowls made my top 5. The other 2 are actually honorable mentions. Just because, like I said, I didn't want to kill y'all with Dallas Cowboys. So I actually did rank Super Bowls. And not only did I go through the list and read a bunch of stats, I actually rewatched every single one of these Super Bowls that I'm going to list off for you. So they're fresh in my brain as well. So let's start off with the honorable mentions. The first honorable mention is actually where I said we're going to start. That's with Super Bowl 27. My Dallas Cowboys over the Buffalo Bills in Pasadena, California on January 31st, 1993. The Cowboys absolutely obliterated the Bills 52-17. Cowboys were the best team in the league. Actually, rewatching this team really kind of broke my heart because the Cowboys used to be so fucking good. If you are born after that 90s Cowboys team, all you know is how shitty the Cowboys are and how they're the laughingstock of the league now. But this Cowboys team, they were the dominant team. And I don't mean dominant team where y'all think the Chiefs are dominant. No, this Dallas Cowboys team would absolutely murder this Kansas City Chiefs teams with Patrick Mahomes. Part of the reason why is because they weren't just good on offense. They were spectacular on defense. This year, the 92 team, they fucking had the number 1 offense and number 1 defense. And if you don't remember, their defense had one of my favorite defensive players of all time, Charles Haley. They had Kevin Smith, a spectacular cornerback, Bill Bates, another great safety, Darren Woodson, another great safety. Then on the offensive side of the ball, we got Troy Aikman, Emmitt Smith, Michael Irvin, Alvin Harper, the playoff killer. A lot of people don't recall Alvin Harper. Alvin Harper makes a lot of big plays for this 90s Cowboys team. And then you got the dark horse, Jay motherfucking Novacek. That dude was always there when you needed him, when you needed to just get the ball to anybody. So watching this Cowboys team, it really was oh, man. We used to be the best, most unbeatable team too, because Jimmy Johnson was a cocky motherfucker too. He used to make fun of other coaches. He used to talk shit to other coaches. He used to call out other coaches. If somebody did that today, everybody would be like, "Oh, he's too confident," and they'd probably throw fucking whiny ass temper tantrums about what an awful human being Jimmy Johnson is. But rewatching these Super Bowls, it kind of hurt a little bit. I mean, it was fun, but man, where we are today, it's just not even close. But anyways, so going into this game, this is the "How about them Cowboys?" That's where that slogan came from. Jimmy Johnson said it when they beat the 49ers in the NFC Championship game to get here. They were a very confident team in all ways. Jimmy Johnson even has said he knew this team was winning the Super Bowl, no matter what. So it started out, hilariously enough, with a blocked punt by the Buffalo Bills. And that would be the only good play of the game for the Buffalo Bills in this game. After that, the Cowboys just went on a 35-point run. And they actually got 35 points off of a record 9 turnovers. That's a Super Bowl record, 9 turnovers. I mean, they were just killing Jim Kelly. Thurman Thomas, he was a good regular season running back. But once that dude hit the playoffs, especially in the Super Bowl, he would shy away from the spotlight. He would always choke during a Super Bowl. And this ain't his only one that he choked during. And I have a fun little stat to tell you once I kind of get through the trajectory of this game here. The Cowboys defense just dominated. The offense they just scored at will. And they pretty much scored on almost every single drive that they got the ball. Jim Kelly was injured in the second quarter. So Frank Reich ended up taking over. He did get them their first couple of scores because usually when you are going into the Super Bowl especially, you pretty much only look at the starting quarterback who you expect to play. You don't really expect Jim Kelly to get hurt and then have Frank Reich come in. So there were a couple drives that kind of the Cowboys were like, oh shit, what's going on here? But they got their shit back together. One of the highlight plays, which was actually a negative for the Cowboys, but it was good old Leon Lett, defensive lineman. He's got 2 follies that he is known for, and it's hilarious because he was legit one of the best defensive linemen in the game. But what he's known for are 2 follies, and one of them was in this game. He picks up a fumble. He's chugging down the field, ba-boom, ba-boom. You're like, oh shit, he's gonna get a touchdown. And this is towards the end of the game, by the way, too. This is in the 4th quarter. If he scores, this gives the Cowboys like 60 points or something like that, and that would have been the highest total of points ever in the Super Bowl. But what happens is just as he's about to cross the goal line, boop, receiver from the Bills comes right up behind him, knocks the ball out of his hands right as he's crossing the goal line for a fumble. And that's really one of the biggest plays that Leon Lett's known for. Also, the Thanksgiving Day play as well in the snow where he slips and falls all over a blocked field goal. So, yeah, Leon Lett. He was great player, but has 2 memorable follies. A stat I did want to mention in this game, Troy Aikman, the quarterback for the Dallas Cowboys, he's never been known for running, ever. But he actually had more rushing yards in this game than Thurman Thomas. Troy Aikman had 28 rushing yards to Thurman Thomas's 11 rushing yards. So, yeah, like I said about Thurman Thomas, dude would disappear during the Super Bowl. The MVP of this Super Bowl was my man, Troy Aikman. He threw 22 for 30, went 273 yards, 4 touchdowns, and basically a perfect passer rating. Another honorable mention is the following Super Bowl, Super Bowl 28, between my Dallas Cowboys and the Buffalo Bills again in Atlanta, Georgia, January 30th, 1994. Cowboys won this one not as handily as the one before that. They won 30-13. This was more of a game than the first one. At least the Bills looked like they were going to play really well in the first half. They even led at halftime, 13-6. But then the Cowboys came out at halftime and scored 24 unanswered points. One of the big moments, like I've mentioned, Thurman Thomas, he fumbled, and then he ended up leaving the game with cramps. I was kind of appalled at that because I don't understand why you're going to leave the game with cramps. I think he was more upset that he was going to get criticized for the fumble because that's basically what set the Cowboys off on their 24 unanswered points mission here. And they just made some big plays when they needed to. Safety James Washington of the Cowboys, he was not the MVP. But judging by the stat line, he very well could have been. But, this year was all about Emmitt Smith. And on the offensive side of the ball, he just could not be stopped. If you didn't see Emmitt Smith run, because one of the things I find amusing about Emmitt Smith is people like to always argue that Barry Sanders was better. And don't get me wrong, Barry Sanders was a great running back. But everybody likes to focus in on the Cowboys' great offensive line, which was a great offensive line. But there are many open field plays that Emmitt Smith makes where he jukes people out, or he's able to just spin away from them. He made very amazing plays, and I remember just rewatching this. And I'm like, man, anybody who's an Emmitt Smith hater, you just hate the Cowboys. You don't even respect this dude's game. So Emmitt Smith had an amazing year. It was actually really fun to rewatch his highlights because he was just such a fun running back to watch. But safety James Washington really had a great Super Bowl. He came out of nowhere. He had a fumble for a touchdown. He had an interception. He forced a fumble and had 11 tackles. He was the reason why we just were kicking ass on defense. And then the MVP of the game was Emmitt Smith. Like I said, this was an Emmitt Smith year. He ended up having 30 carries for 132 yards with 2 touchdowns. And he was basically what really got us going on a 64-yard drive. And that was another great game by the Cowboys. And then so my other honorable mention is Super Bowl 49 between the New England Patriots and the Seattle Seahawks. It was in Arizona, February 1st, 2015. Patriots won 28-24. This was a very, to start, it was back and forth, mostly just defense all the way around. Nobody could score. It was scoreless until the second quarter, until Brady got the Patriots going on a drive and ended up throwing a touchdown to Amendola. Then on the following drive, Seattle got going, and they got going on their own big drive, and Marshawn Lynch ended up going in for the game-tying touchdown. Then directly after that, there was only 31 seconds left going into before halftime, and actually, no, I'm sorry. I was thinking of the next drive. But then the following drive after the Seahawks score, Brady drives the Patriots down the field in 31 seconds and gets a TD to Gronk. Then on that drive, that's the last drive before going into halftime. Seattle only has, I think, like a minute, 2 minutes maybe, and they're backed up at their own 20, so it's not looking like they're gonna score. And boom, Russell Wilson throws a couple of big bombs out there, and they tie the game up before going into halftime with a TD from Wilson to lock it. Then coming out of the third quarter, the Seattle Seahawks ended up getting a field goal, and then they got a interception from Bobby Wagner, and then they got a touchdown from Wilson to Baldwin to go up 24-14. And so it's looking like Seattle's going to just run away with this game. But then the fourth quarter comes around, and that's when Tom Brady turns it on. And he takes the Patriots on a 68-yard drive, ends with a Brady to Amendola touchdown, which cuts the lead 24-21. And then New England's defense comes up with a couple of stops against Seattle. And so basically the Patriots get the ball back, and they take the lead with 2:02. Brady to Edelman, great touchdown. And at this point, it's like, oh shit. Well, let's see what Seattle's got. Seattle starts at their own 20, and there was they drove down the field. But the big play on this drive was by the tight end. Russell Wilson threw up this ball in double coverage. It gets bobbled in the air, and as Kearse is falling to the ground, the tight end for the Seahawks, the ball bounces off his stomach into the air, and he's able to grab it, so it never touches the ground. And so he is at the Patriots' 5-yard line with about, I think it's like 30 seconds to go. And so everybody on the Patriots sidelines like, oh, fuck. The defense has got to make a stop here because they're at the Patriots' 5-yard line. You're thinking, oh, shit. So, of course, everybody's thinking, because, Marshawn Lynch, he was the dude at the goal line. The Seattle Seahawks running back, he was the dude then. And so you're thinking this dude's going to get the ball like all 4 times. So he gets it on first down. He's able to get a couple of yards, but the Patriots stop him. Then on second down, Seattle takes a risk. Russell Wilson drops back to pass, and Malcolm Butler, the New England Patriots cornerback, jumps right in front of the ball and intercepts the ball at the 1-yard line. And to see the Patriots sideline, most notably Tom Brady, Tom Brady is jumping up and down like a little schoolgirl. It is the greatest. It's one of my favorite shots of Tom Brady and his Super Bowl. And it has nothing to do with him winning the game. It's just his reaction for the win is just awesome. And then so they get the ball back at the 1-yard line. And there's still, I think, like 10 seconds left. So usually in this situation, New England would just down the ball, but they're at the 1-yard line and they can't down the ball. You have to at least run the ball. And so this is a very risky play for the Patriots. But what ends up happening is Seattle jumps off sides and bumps the Patriots up to the 5-yard line where Tom Brady kneels down. And if you don't remember, Richard Sherman, the cornerback of the Seattle Seahawks, walks right up to him as he's knelt down and puts his hand out to shake his hand like, y'all just beat us. Because if you don't remember, Richard Sherman used to talk a lot of shit. I love Richard Sherman. That's actually why I love Richard Sherman. That moment when they're playing the San Francisco 49ers in the, it might have actually been this year or the year before. But when they beat the San Francisco 49ers in the championship game, and he's like yelling at the camera, "You put that sorry-ass receiver Michael Crabtree on me. He ain't gonna do shit." That's one of the greatest moments of all time, especially because I hated Michael Crabtree because if you're a Longhorns fan, there's a moment when he played for Texas Tech that each and every one of us hate, and I'm not going to talk about it. If you want to go see it, you go fucking look that shit up. That is a horrible moment in Longhorn history that we shall never talk about again. So fuck you, Michael Crabtree. But yeah, so the Patriots won. MVP ended up being Tom Brady, of course. He went 37 for 50, 328 yards, 4 touchdowns, and 2 interceptions. Then my last honorable mention is Super Bowl 42. Now, this was a tough one for me to watch as well. One, because I really, really hate the winner of this Super Bowl. But also, this season has always stuck out for me as a Cowboys fan. Always stuck out for me as a Cowboys fan. Because the Cowboys were one of the best teams in the league this year. Their offense was on fire. Their defense was great. And they were the number 1 seed. They got the bye week, and we're looking so spectacular. And they laid a fucking goddamn egg against the goddamn New York Giants in the playoffs. I mean, it was a close game. It ended on a Tony Romo interception. What a fucking shock. But yeah, this season, rewatching this, it really kind of pained me because this season has always stuck out on my head as one of the biggest Cowboys failures of all time. But I digress. We're talking about Super Bowl 42. The New York Giants over the New England Patriots, 17-14. It was in Arizona, like the last one I just talked about, February 3rd, 2008. One of the reasons why I had to put the Super Bowl in here is because just from a game perspective, it was a great game. And it was something unprecedented that happened because the New England Patriots coming into this game were undefeated. They were 18-0. They were arguably easily the best team in the league this year. I mean, their offense couldn't be stopped. They were just such a spectacular team. And the Giants, on the other hand, were very streaky. They were off. They were on. They had just a very shaky regular season. But then once the playoffs hit, man, this team just took it to a whole other level. And nobody believed in them. And I mean, who would? The Patriots were undefeated going into this, and they've already won Super Bowls before this one. So they're easily going to win. But that did not happen. And basically, it was just a defensive battle, the first half. It actually started out looking like it was going to be a good game. The first drive was the New York Giants actually had the longest drive in Super Bowl history that took 10 minutes off the clock. It was like 9:49 or some shit like that, but almost 10 minutes to just get 3 points. But they did take a lot of time off the clock, and then so the Patriots got the ball back more towards the second quarter, but they did take the ball directly down the field and scored a touchdown to go up 7-3. Going into halftime, it was 7-3, and it was just all defense in the second and the third quarter. Like nobody wanted to score in this one. Finally, the fourth quarter hits. The Giants go on an 80-yard drive, and it ends with Eli Manning to David Tyree touchdown for them to go up 10-7. There's 7:54 left. New England takes the ball at 8. It goes on an 80-yard drive. This one ends with Brady touchdown to Randy Moss for them to go up 14-10. And then it's just a defensive battle all the way in between there, and then until the Giants get the ball at 2 minutes and 39 seconds. This is their final drive. And it was one of the most historic drives, most historic moments in Super Bowl history. There's a play. Manning's running around. He's got like 3 defensive linemen on him. They're about to tear him down, and somehow Manning stays the fuck up. And he just bombs the ball. And you're like, there's no way this is going to go to anybody. Well, it goes to David Tyree, who grabs the ball, just sticks it on his helmet as he's falling down to the ground and makes one of the most historic, memorable moments in Super Bowl history. Now, that wasn't a touchdown, but it was a first down. And it was the biggest play of the game by both Eli Manning and David Tyree. Then after that, and I remember watching this in real time, and I'm like, holy shit, is this really going to happen? Are the Giants really going to beat this team? Because the clock is running. The clock is running. The clock is running. And so this drive ends with a Manning to Plaxico Burress touchdown. Beautiful touchdown, too. Plaxico Burress was wide open. And that's how the Giants ended up winning. 17-14. The Patriots did get the ball back after that, but it just ended up being a sack because the Giants defense just knew how to get at Tom Brady. They played each other in Week 17 before they hit the playoffs, and they actually had Tom Brady running around the whole time, and I think that set the blueprint up for this game because this defense just and that's how you had to stop this team, was going through Tom Brady, because it didn't matter who the other players were around Tom Brady. If you get at Tom Brady, that offense ain't going anywhere. So they just had him running for his life the entire game, and they were just never able to get in any type of rhythm. And the Giants ended up walking away with one of the most unprecedented wins of all time. The MVP ended up being Eli Manning. He went 19 of 34 for 255 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 1 interception in one of the most memorable Super Bowls of all time. All right. And so now that I've said the honorable mentions, now let's get to the top 5 favorite Super Bowls of all time. Starting with number 5, and that would be Super Bowl 34 between the St. Louis Rams and the Tennessee Titans in Atlanta, Georgia, January 30th, 2000. St. Louis ended up winning a close game, 23-16. It did not start off close. It actually started out as a defensive battle. And the Rams only went into halftime with a 9-0 lead, which was really odd at the time because this St. Louis Rams team was the best offense in the league. I mean, they had Kurt Warner, they had Isaac Bruce, they had Torrey Holt, they had Marshall Faulk, they had a spectacular offensive line. This was one of the best offenses in the history of the fucking league. And for them to only walk in with 9 points, 3 field goals going into halftime, it was very weird. But then they come out in the third quarter, and Kurt Warner drives them down the field, gets Torrey Holt a touchdown for them to go up 16-0. So you're like, shit, man, are the Titans going to show up to this one? And I'm not going to lie, I loved this Titans team. Steve McNair is one of my favorite quarterbacks of all time. As a matter of fact, I remember where I was when he died. I was coming back from Fort Worth, Texas. I had I did an interview and a performance out there on a local like television show out there. And so I hop in my car. I'm driving down the road back from Fort Worth down to Austin. And like 15 minutes goes by, and I'm listening to satellite radio at the time, and I have it on NFL radio. And all of a sudden, out of nowhere, they're like, breaking news. Steve McNair has died. And I was like, what the fuck? And I mean, if you don't know, it was a very fucked up situation. Basically, he was cheating on his wife. He was going to break up with his mistress. He was sitting on a couch watching TV. His mistress walked up right behind him and shot him point blank in the head. And then she sat next to him and then blew her brains out while lying in his lap. So, yeah, that's a real fun, uplifting story, I know, but unfortunately, it's exactly what happened. And I love Steve McNair. He was one of the most fun, exciting quarterbacks to watch at this time, and most specifically this Super Bowl. That's one of the reasons why, and we'll get there towards the end. But he was just a fun quarterback to watch. And then Eddie George, he was their running back too, and he was just another great running back at the time. So to see them down 16-0, you're like, does this team know they're in the Super Bowl? But they finally get it going in the third quarter, and they go on this nice long drive, and Eddie George gets them a touchdown. So they finally score. They did miss the extra point, but they're within scoring distance or catching up distance to the Rams, and so it's 16-6. Then going into the fourth quarter, St. Louis forced a punt. They're forced to punt, and the Titans go on another long drive. And Eddie George ends up with another touchdown. And it's actually, if you remember this Super Bowl, it's one of the highlights because Eddie George just takes on the defensive line and just shoves his way into the end zone and gets this touchdown to go up 16-3. And then on the following play, the Rams go on or not the Rams, the Rams go 3 and out. And then the Titans take over again, and they're able to drive down the field, get a 43-yard field goal to tie everything up at 16. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, on the next drive, the Rams finally find some heat on offense. And Kurt Warner makes this amazing pass to Isaac Bruce for a 73-yard touchdown. He does this little slant. Boom, Warner drops the pass right in, and he just cuts up field, and nobody touches Isaac Bruce. And they go up 23-16. So that leaves a minute 48 on the clock for the Tennessee Titans. This is the final drive. They have to start at their 12-yard line. And they drove all the way. And man, if you watch this drive, it is so fun to watch. I mean, Steve McNair is just, he's shaking quarterbacks off of him. He's got so many plays where he's like almost going to hit the ground, and he just somehow gets out of it and just is able to bomb it downfield. And so there is 6 seconds left to go. And the Titans are at the Rams 10. And this is for everything. This is for everything. McNair drops back to pass. And defenders are just coming at him. And he's shaking them off. He makes this beautiful little run where he hits the ground with his hand and picks himself up. And then just bombs the ball right over the middle to Dyson. And he's looking at him like, oh my God, he's going to get the touchdown. Oh, shit. Mike Jones, linebacker for the St. Louis Rams, makes the biggest play of the game, tackles Dyson down at the 1-yard line, and that is how the game ends. The Tennessee Titans lose the Super Bowl by 1 yard. And it was just such an insane Super Bowl. It always sticks out in my brain. When I think of Super Bowls that I just loved to watch, this was one. The MVP ended up being Kurt Warner, who went 24 for 45 with 414 yards and 2 touchdowns. And that was just one of my favorite Super Bowls ever. And like I said, it just always sticks out in my brain. Number 4 on my top 5 favorite Super Bowls is Super Bowl 51. New England Patriots versus the Atlanta Falcons in Houston, Texas, February 5th, 2017. New England Patriots have the greatest comeback in NFL history, in Super Bowl history, only Super Bowl to ever go into overtime. Patriots win 34-28. And Atlanta started this one off hot, not only on offense, but defensively too. This looked like this was going to be the worst game the Patriots ever had. And I will say, this was the first game for me where all of my respect for Tom Brady, this is where it comes from. Because the way he came back in this game, and I know it wasn't just him, but if you watch the highlights, or if you watch any of the behind-the-scenes shit that I watch of this one, he never gives up. The entire time, even when they're down 28-3, in the third freaking quarter, this dude's walking up and down the sideline like, we got this, guys. We got this. One score at a time. We still got this. And you're just like, come on, dude. You're down 28-3. But anyways, so, Atlanta's just dominating this game. And in the second quarter, he actually throws an interception. And it's an interception that just stands out in my head because I just remember him sitting there on the ground with his legs just straight out and his head down into the ground, and he's just like, fuck. And I remember just sitting there like, I don't know why, but I feel like this dude's just going to bring them back. They may be down 21-0 right now, and this team's playing like shit, but this is Tom Brady. And actually, when I rewatched this, on the sidelines, there are 2 Atlanta Falcons on the sideline talking. I don't recall who they were, but they must have been on the offense because they weren't on the field at the time. But one of them looks at the other and goes, "This is Tom Brady. We can't lay down on this one. He could still come back." And the other guy goes, "They ain't seen nothing like us. We about to put 40 on them." Yeah, famous last words, dude. So the Patriots end up getting a field goal before halftime. It's 21-3 Falcons at halftime. Third quarter starts, Falcons come right out and score another touchdown and go up 28-3. And so it's really looking like, what's going on here? Until finally the Patriots start putting it together. So their next drive, Brady takes them on a 75-yard drive, ends up being a Brady to White touchdown, cuts the lead 28-9. Then the next Patriots drive. Patriots at their own 13-yard line. They go on another long drive, which ends up with a Gostowski 33-yard field goal, puts them at 28-12. Then, one of the biggest plays of the game, Matt Stafford. I almost called him Matt Stafford. No, Matt Ryan. Matt Ryan. I'm sorry, Matt Stafford. That's a huge diss, because Matt Ryan is not on your level. But anyways, Matt Ryan has this huge fumble, and then Patriots take over at the Atlanta 25, able to score a quick one, Brady to Amendola, which sets them up with the 2-point conversion, and the game is now 28-20 Atlanta, and they're just crumbling, and you could tell they're crumbling. You could tell they're crumbling on the sideline, offensively and defensively. You could tell they're yelling at each other, and that's the difference between them and the Patriots, because like I said, Tom Brady this entire time, even when they're down 21-0, this dude's walking up and down the sideline like, no, we got him. Just score one more. We just got to score one more. That's all we got to do. We just got to do our job. He keeps preaching that the entire time, and these motherfuckers are now catching up to the Falcons. And so Atlanta goes on another nice drive. They make some big plays. As a matter of fact, Julio Jones makes one of the greatest catches in Super Bowl history, where he just hops up over the defender, grabs the ball, and just does this amazing toe tap where you're like, did he actually catch that ball? Instant replay shows dude catches the ball. And it puts them in field goal range as well. So you're thinking, oh shit, well, this is going to be it for the Patriots then. No, their defense steps it up and knocks Matt Ryan back, sacks him, and they are now out of field goal range. So they have to punt the ball. Patriots are at their 9-yard line in the fourth quarter with 3 minutes and 30 seconds left to go. They drive down the field, and Edelman ends up with the game tying touchdown. Well, not game tying, because then they had to do the 2-point conversion, but they ended up tying the game at 28, and we go into overtime. The first time ever in Super Bowl history. Took 51 Super Bowls to get to overtime. Patriots win the coin toss, and basically they go on a run, drive it right down the field, and James White gets the game-winning touchdown. And the Patriots have the greatest comeback in all of Super Bowl history, and Tom Brady cements his legacy. And also what was really hilarious about this season in particular is this was the season he was suspended for 4 games for the sham that was Deflategate. And that's what you get for pissing Tom Brady off. He's going to come back and make the season memorable for you, even though he missed 4 games to start the season. He was the MVP in this one. He went 43 for 62 with 466 yards, which at the time was a Super Bowl record. He then broke that record when they lost to the Eagles, I think in the next year or the 2 years later, whichever. And 2 touchdowns and 1 interception. So that's my number 4 Tropp 5 favorite Super Bowl. Number 3 on my list of Tropp 5 favorite Super Bowls is Super Bowl 32 between the Denver Broncos and the Green Bay Packers in San Diego, California, January 25th, 1998. Full disclosure, at this time, one of my least favorite teams growing up has always been the Green Bay Packers. I always hated Brett Favre. I have mad respect for Brett Favre, don't get me wrong. When I say I hate a team or hate players, if they're a great player, I will absolutely call them out as a good player. And Brett Favre is a GOAT. He's one of the best of all time, and especially of this time, but I hated him and the Packers. But I loved John Elway. John Elway is one of my favorite quarterbacks of all time. And so this season was so much fun to watch. The Broncos won this one 31-24. They had lost their 4 previous Super Bowls before this. That's what they were known for, was just going on great regular season runs. Had some big AFC championship games against the Cleveland Browns. And John Elway, he just was one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time, but all he was missing was a Super Bowl. And what helped them in this game was Terrell Davis. They got a great running back, Terrell Davis, and he was the missing piece for this team. Green Bay were the defending champs going into this game. And both teams right at the gate scored on the first drive. And so you're just thinking, oh shit, it's going to be a great Super Bowl. Then in the second quarter, Terrell Davis, the leader of this Denver Broncos team, he gets hit and he starts suffering from a migraine. If you don't know, Terrell Davis actually did suffer from migraines throughout his entire career. So this wasn't something off the wall that happened to him, but it actually was really funny to rewatch this, because if it happened in today's game, he probably would have never come back into the game, because there was actually at one point, and I get migraines as well. They're absolutely awful. I don't wish them on anybody. And just at times, like, you can't see, you'll be throwing up. And so he was at that point. Like, he was telling Mike Shanahan, who was the coach of the Denver Broncos at the time, he was telling him at one point, I can't see. And so they gave him his medicine, whatever his medicine was. I mean, when it comes to sports, it can be anything. But they gave him his, quote, medicine. And it wasn't kicking in. And so they were going into halftime, and Mike Shanahan's like, just go to the locker room. We'll see what happens in the third quarter. All right. So they come out in the third quarter, and Terrell Davis is out there starting. But unfortunately, on the first play, he fumbles the ball. And that sets the Packers up in good field position, and they end up scoring. So here we are. Then the next drive is it has a very memorable Super Bowl moment. Elway's driving them down the field. They're on this excellent drive, and they're at a 3rd and 6 at about the Packers 15-ish yard line. It might have been a little bit closer, but it was 3rd and 6. John Elway drops back to pass, and nobody's open. Nobody's out there. And he just sees one little opening for him to run. And he runs, and if you remember, this is the one where he jumps in the air, and boom, he gets hit by the defender and just kind of like flips around like a helicopter and lands. And then they end up scoring the game-tying touchdown. And so it's tied at 24 going into the fourth. And it was a back-and-forth defensive battle in the fourth quarter. And it came down to the last Denver drive. 3:27 left. And basically they drove down the field pretty easily. And there was 1:45 left. And Mike Holmgren was the coach of the Green Bay Packers at the time. And he actually told his defense to let them score so they could give Brett Favre some time left on the clock to hopefully drive them down the field to score as well. So they actually made it real easy for the Broncos to score a touchdown on this one, for them to go up 31-24. Well, Packers get the ball back, and they just stall out on their last drive. And the Broncos end up winning the game. MVP was Terrell Davis with 157 yards, 3 touchdowns, and that was John Elway's first Super Bowl win. And it was a very exciting Super Bowl in my opinion, and number 3 on my Tropp 5 favorite Super Bowls. Number 2 on my Tropp 5 favorite Super Bowls is Super Bowl 43 between the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Arizona Cardinals in Tampa, Florida. The Steelers won 27-23 in one of the most dominating, defensive dominated first halves. This game had some of the most insane plays you will ever see of all time. I mean, it just went back and forth from the jump. It started out with Pittsburgh defense absolutely dominating Arizona at this point in time. But shit started getting going, and it's 10-7. It's almost halftime, and the Cardinals have one more play. They're at I believe the 2-ish, 3-yard line of the Steelers, so they should easily score a touchdown. Well, guess what? Kurt Warner ends up throwing an interception right before halftime to big old James Harrison, who runs the ball back for a 100-yard interception, and the Pittsburgh Steelers take the lead going into the half, up 17-7. And they pretty much dominated the entire third quarter. And then the fourth quarter happened, and this was where all the fun started. The Cardinals started their fourth quarter comeback, which started with a TD to Larry Fitzgerald, one of the best wide receivers of all time, who made one of the best plays in this game. It wasn't this touchdown, but it's his final touchdown. But Fitzgerald was one of those game-changing wide receivers, and he definitely did that in this game. If the Cardinals would have won this Super Bowl, he would have been the MVP, that's for damn sure. But he ended up scoring a touchdown for the Cardinals in the fourth quarter to get them in scoring distance at 20-14. So the Steelers take over, and they're backed up pretty far. on their next drive, and Ben Roethlisberger steps back to pass. I think they're at the 1 yard line, their own 1 yard line, and one of the offensive linemen is holding in the end zone, which turns out to be a safety. So then it's 20-16 Pittsburgh Steelers. So the following drive, because it's a safety, so Pittsburgh's got to kick the ball to Arizona. Following drive, Arizona goes on this beautiful drive, and Kurt Warner hits Larry Fitzgerald on this post route, and he goes 64 yards for a touchdown. And it's a memorable touchdown, too. It's just like, boop, perfect pass to Fitzgerald, and this dude just takes off, and he can't be touched. He can't fucking be touched, and you're just like, damn. And so the Cardinals, for the first point in the game, they take the lead and go up 23-20. So there's 2 minutes and 37 seconds left on the clock for the Pittsburgh Steelers. And on this drive, there were 2 big plays from Santonio Holmes. Ben just drops back, and just tosses the ball up to Santonio, who just makes these acrobatic catches to put them in great field position. So the final play for the Steelers, they're at about the 10-yard line of the Cardinals. Ben's looking around. He drops back. He's looking around. Oh, shit. Don't got to do there. Turns to the Santonio Holmes side of the field on the right. Just puts the ball in the most perfect position in triple coverage. Santonio Holmes makes a beautiful catch, toe drag swag, drops in the end zone, and scores the game-winning touchdown, one of the most exciting touchdowns and drives you will ever see in the Super Bowl. And it was just nuts to see. And so they take the lead there. And then just directly on the following drive, the Cardinals still have time. They had 42 seconds left, but Pittsburgh ends up forcing a fumble, and they end up walking away with the win. The MVP was Santonio Holmes. He had 9 catches for 131 yards and 1 touchdown. Also, he had an amazing postseason. He actually had a great season that year overall. He made some amazing catches, amazing game-winning catches for the Steelers. But most notably, he had a great postseason that year. That was a spectacular year for Santonio Holmes. Ben Roethlisberger could have easily been the MVP in this one as well, because he just also had a dominant game. And that last game-winning drive was just a beautiful game-winning drive. Also of note, this was John Madden's last game he ever announced. So yeah, Super Bowl 43, my second favorite Super Bowl. And so now we get to the number 1 Tropp 5 favorite Super Bowl. If you have been keeping track, you will notice there is one Dallas Cowboys Super Bowl from my adulthood that isn't on here, and that's because it's number 1. It's Super Bowl 30. Dallas Cowboys versus the Pittsburgh Steelers in Tempe, Arizona on January 28th, 1996, the last time the Cowboys were good. They beat the Steelers 27-17. This was the second year of Barry Switzer as the coach. And they weren't as good as a team as they usually were. I mean, they still had a pretty good regular season, but they were pretty shaky overall. But they ended up making the Super Bowl, and this was a very memorable Super Bowl, especially for me, because it's the last Super Bowl that the Cowboys won. Unfortunately, it was the last time the Cowboys were even in the Super Bowl, or even a good team, like I said. But basically, the Cowboys dominated the first half. And in the third quarter, Larry Brown made the cornerback of the Cowboys. Larry Brown made a huge interception to set up the Cowboys in scoring position to go up 20-7. Then in the fourth quarter, the Steelers actually started to make a comeback. And the comeback started with an onside kick, and then they ended up driving down the field. Or they got the onside kick, set them up in good field position to get within scoring distance of the Cowboys, and it was 20-17 at that point. Then the Cowboys get on offense, and the Pittsburgh defense steps it up and stops the Cowboys offense. And so shit's starting to look real in this one. And I'm like, oh my God, are the Cowboys going to lose this one? Well, no, good old Larry Brown comes out of nowhere again and gets a second interception. and runs it back to the Pittsburgh Steelers 6-yard line with 4 minutes left to go, which set Emmitt Smith up to put the game away for another touchdown. The MVP in this game did end up being the cornerback, Larry Brown. This was pretty much his only game he ever showed up to. After that, he pretty much did nothing. He had those 2 big interceptions. Just because overall also the Cowboys offense, a whole bunch of other players, it wasn't just an Emmitt Smith game. It wasn't just a Troy Aikman game. Like, everybody contributed on offense. And Larry Brown just made the 2 biggest plays of the game. So he ended up being the MVP. And one thing I did want to say about this team, or really this time period, is I feel sorry for anybody who did not get to see Deion Sanders play. If you did not get to watch Deion Sanders in real time, and for no matter what team he played for, whether it was the Falcons, the 49ers, or the Cowboys, y'all missed out. There is nobody, still to this day, nobody in the league who plays cornerback the way Deion Sanders did. I mean, he wasn't just a cornerback. I mean, he was a punt returner, he was a kick returner, and during this Super Bowl 30, he actually made some big plays as a wide receiver. He was one of the most versatile players you will ever see, and I feel sorry for anybody who did not get to see the great Deion Sanders play, because, because like I said, I rewatched all of these Super Bowls, and so I saw the highlights of him throughout a few of these seasons that I watched, and I'm like, wow, I remember Deion. I always loved Deion. He was one of my favorite players, but rewatching the time he played, man, I really feel bad for y'all, because he was just a great, spectacular player to watch. And I feel privileged that not only did I get to see him play, but he played for my favorite team, and he won a Super Bowl with my favorite team. So Deion Sanders, I personally enjoyed your career. I know everybody who watched you enjoyed your career. You were a phenomenal player, and there is still to this day nobody in the league like Neon Deion Sanders. And that is my top 5 favorite Super Bowls of all time. I think what this list shows, because the thing that you see is there's big comebacks. There's teams that absolutely dominated. There's teams that came out of nowhere, like the Cardinals. They were a weak team. The Giants, they were a weak team. So like you notice the Super Bowl has it all. And so Super Bowl 56 should be very interesting. And we'll see if it ever lands in my top 5. Maybe it can replace one of these. Obviously, it's never going to replace a Cowboys Super Bowl. The only thing that could do that is another Cowboys Super Bowl, motherfuckers. But we'll see what happens with Super Bowl 56. I'm looking forward to the matchup. All I hope is we get a good game. Like I said, I'm rooting for the Bengals, but a good game is what I'm really rooting for. So everybody enjoy the Super Bowl. Have a great time. If you're a Bengals fan, I really hope you enjoy it. If you're a Rams fan, I also hope you enjoy it. And we'll see who is the Super Bowl champion on Monday.